The January air in Boston cut like a knife as Denzel Washington's black SUV pulled up to the box center. The historic theater was illuminated against the evening sky, a stark contrast to the gray slush accumulating on the sidewalks. Tonight was the premiere of his latest film, and despite decades in the industry, Denzel still felt a flutter of anticipation before these events. "We're running about 15 minutes early, Mr. Washington," his driver announced, turning slightly. Denzel nodded. "That's fine. I could use some fresh air anyway." As he stepped out onto the sidewalk, adjusting his charcoal overcoat, Denzel noticed a small group of people huddled near the theater's side entrance. Homeless individuals seeking shelter from the bitter cold, their possessions piled in carts or stuffed into worn backpacks. Most nights, he would have acknowledged them with a respectful nod, perhaps instructed his assistant to arrange for some food to be delivered. But tonight was different. Among the weathered faces, one caught his attention, a man in his 60s with a salt and pepper beard and hollow cheeks, wearing multiple layers of tattered clothing. There was something hauntingly familiar about his eyes, deep-set and intelligent, even through the fog of whatever hardships had claimed him. Denzel paused mid-step, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. "Marcus?" he whispered, almost to himself. "Marcus Collins?" The man looked up, confusion washing over his face, followed by a flicker of recognition and then unmistakable shame. He quickly averted his gaze and began shuffling away. "Marcus, wait!" Denzel called, louder this time. He jogged toward the retreating figure, ignoring the curious glances from passers-by who recognized him. When he reached the man, Denzel gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Up close, the years had been even less kind than they appeared from a distance. Deep lines etched the once smooth face that had laughed alongside his own in the basketball courts of the Bronx. The eyes that had once sparkled with ambition now looked weary and defeated. "It's me, Denzel, from Evergreen Avenue. Mrs. Patterson's math class? You used to beat everyone at horse, remember?" Marcus's shoulders slumped, and for a moment Denzel thought he might bolt again. Instead, he slowly raised his head, his voice a raspy whisper. "I know who you are, D. The whole world knows who you are." He gestured vaguely at the theater marquee bearing Denzel's name. "I was hoping you wouldn't recognize me." The world around them seemed to fade. The bustling preparations for the premiere, the occasional flash of a camera, the honking of taxis, all of it receded as Denzel stood face to face with the ghost of his past. "My publicist is coming this way," Denzel said quickly, noticing the purposeful stride of a woman in a tailored suit heading toward them. "Stay right here, okay? Promise me you won't leave." Marcus shrugged non-committally, but didn't move away. When Sarah, his publicist, reached them, her professional smile was firmly in place. "Denzel, we should head inside. The press is waiting." "And cancel it," Denzel interrupted, his tone leaving no room for discussion. "I'm sorry, what?" Sarah blinked, her smile faltering. "Cancel the press interviews. All of them. Tell them I've come down with something." Sarah's eyes darted between Denzel and Marcus, confusion evident. The film distributors flew in specifically for this. "The director. Reschedule for tomorrow. I'll do double the interviews, whatever they need. But right now, I need the evening off." "It's important, Sarah." After a moment's hesitation, she nodded, already pulling out her phone. "I'll handle it." "Should I?" She gestured uncertainly toward Marcus. "No, I've got this. Thank you." As Sarah walked away, already making apologetic calls, Denzel turned back to Marcus. "There's a diner around the corner. Best apple pie in Boston, or so they claim. How about we grab a bite and catch up?" Marcus looked down at his dirty clothes, his cracked hands. "I don't think they'd let me in there, D." Denzel smiled, the warm, genuine smile that had won over audiences for decades. "They'll let you in. You're with me." The fluorescent lights of Mike's Diner cast a harsh glow over the red vinyl booths. In the corner farthest from the entrance, Denzel and Marcus sat across from each other, 2 steaming cups of coffee between them. The waitress had done a double take when they walked in but, true to Denzel's word, had shown them to a table without comment. Marcus wrapped his hands around the mug, savoring the warmth. His fingers were calloused, nails broken, the knuckles swollen from exposure to the elements. When he finally took a sip, he closed his eyes briefly, as if it were the finest liquor rather than diner coffee. "When was the last time you had a hot meal?" Denzel asked quietly. Marcus shrugged. "The shelter on Cambridge Street serves dinner at 6. I make it there sometimes." The casual way he said it, as if skipping meals was as normal as commenting on the weather, made Denzel's chest tighten. "I ordered us some food," Denzel said, nodding toward the kitchen. "The works. Hope you're hungry." A flicker of something, embarrassment perhaps, crossed Marcus's face. "You don't have to do that." "I know I don't have to. I want to." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 25 years settling between them. "Last I heard, you were overseas," Denzel finally said. "Desert Storm, right?" Marcus nodded, his gaze fixed on the coffee. "2 tours. Made it back in one piece, more or less." "And after?" Marcus's laugh was hollow. "After is a long story, D. Not sure you really want to hear it." "I do," Denzel said firmly. "I've got all night." Their food arrived. Cheeseburgers, fries, and slices of the diner's famous apple pie. Marcus stared at the plate as if it might disappear, then began eating methodically, with the disciplined pace of someone who'd learned that meals weren't guaranteed. Between bites, the story emerged in fragments. After the military, Marcus had returned to a decent life. A job as a security consultant, a small apartment in Philadelphia, a brief marriage that had ended amicably. Then came the fire that claimed his sister and her 2 children, the only family he had left. The nightmares that followed, blending with trauma he'd carried back from the war. The prescription painkillers for an old combat injury that gradually became something more. The descent was textbook: job loss, foreclosure, couch surfing, and finally the streets. "Been in Boston about 3 years now," Marcus concluded, pushing his empty plate away. "The VA hospital here is decent. I check in when things get bad." "And no one from the old neighborhood ever reached out?" Denzel asked, thinking of their tight-knit Bronx community. Marcus shook his head. "Most of them scattered after that last building on our block got converted to luxury condos." "Gentrification," he added, with a bitter smile. "Besides, I wasn't exactly keeping up with Christmas cards." Denzel leaned forward. "What about me? Why didn't you ever call me?" For the first time that evening, Marcus met Denzel's gaze directly. "And say what?" "Hey, remember me, your old buddy from the block? The one who taught you how to shoot a proper jump shot? Well, I'm sleeping on heating grates now. Can you spare some change?" "Come on, D." The hurt in Marcus's voice was palpable. "I would have helped you," Denzel said softly. "You know that." "That's exactly why I couldn't call," Marcus replied, his voice breaking slightly. "Some things, some holes are too deep to let anyone see the bottom. Even old friends." Denzel nodded slowly, understanding. Pride was sometimes the last possession a person refused to surrender. "Well, I see you now," Denzel said. "And I'm not looking away." Outside the diner windows, snow had begun to fall, soft flakes illuminated by the streetlights. The weather forecast had predicted a storm, one of the worst of the season. Marcus followed his gaze. "I should get going. Shelter beds fill up fast on nights like this." "No," Denzel said with sudden resolve. "No more shelters. Not tonight." He pulled out his phone and dialed, speaking quickly when someone answered. "James, it's me. I need a room at the Fairmont." "Yes, tonight. And I need you to stop by my place. Pack a bag with some clothes about my size. And toiletries, everything someone would need for a few days." He glanced at Marcus. "Make it a week." When he hung up, Marcus was staring at him. "What are you doing, D?" "What I should have done years ago if I'd known," Denzel replied. Being a friend, the suite at the Fairmont was larger than any apartment Marcus had rented in his life. Standing in the marble bathroom, he barely recognized the man staring back at him from the mirror. 3 days of proper meals, hot showers, and sleeping in an actual bed had already begun to transform him. The borrowed clothes from Denzel hung loosely on his frame, but they were clean and warm. Outside in the sitting area, Denzel was on the phone, speaking in the measured tones he used for business. Since that night at the diner, he had rescheduled his press obligations around daily visits with Marcus. Their conversations had evolved from cautious reminiscing to honest discussions about the future. "That was Dr. Levine," Denzel said as Marcus emerged from the bathroom. "She can see you tomorrow morning." Marcus sank into an armchair, conflicted emotions playing across his face. "A psychiatrist, right? One of the best in Boston," Denzel confirmed. "She specializes in PTSD and veterans' mental health." Marcus ran a hand over his freshly trimmed beard. "And the other appointment? The one with the VA advocate? Thursday at 11. I'll be there too, if you want me to be." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable, but it was heavy with unspoken thoughts. "Why are you doing all this, D?" Marcus finally asked, the question that had been hovering between them for days. Denzel didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, looking out at the Boston skyline. "Remember that summer before senior year, when my mom got sick, and everybody thought we'd have to move back to Atlanta to stay with my aunt?" Marcus nodded. "Your mom couldn't work for months. What people don't know, what I've never told any interviewer, is that we would have lost everything if your family hadn't stepped in. Your mom bringing over groceries. Your dad fixing our leaky roof for free. You sharing your textbooks when I couldn't afford new ones." Denzel turned back to face Marcus. "You told me something back then, when I tried to thank you. You said, 'This is what we do. We carry each other.'" Marcus closed his eyes, the memory washing over him. "I didn't get here alone, Marcus," Denzel continued. "No one does. And no one should have to find their way back alone either." For the first time since they'd reunited, Marcus smiled. A genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Always did have a way with words, D. No wonder they pay you the big bucks." Denzel laughed, the tension breaking. "Speaking of which, there's something else I want to talk to you about." 5 months later, the conference room of the newly established Washington Collins Veterans Initiative buzzed with activity. Volunteers arranged chairs while caterers set up a modest buffet along one wall. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Charles River glittered in the June sunshine. In a small office adjacent to the conference room, Marcus adjusted his tie, his hands steadier than they had been in years. The navy suit fit him perfectly, not borrowed this time, but his own. On the desk behind him lay stacks of brochures outlining the initiative's mission, providing housing, mental health services, and employment opportunities for homeless veterans. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. 5 minutes, Mr. Collins," a young assistant said, poking her head in. "Thanks, Aisha. Is the press here?" "Yes, sir." Full house. After she left, Marcus took a deep breath, reviewing his notes one last time. The journey of the past months played through his mind. The difficult therapy sessions, the paperwork battles with the VA, the gradual rebuilding of his health and confidence. There had been setbacks, moments of overwhelming doubt when the old cravings returned. But there had also been victories, each one carrying him further from the man who had huddled outside a theater on a cold January night. The door opened again, and Denzel entered, impeccable in a charcoal suit. "Ready for the big moment?" he asked. Marcus nodded. "Ready as I'll ever be. Just remember, this is your show. I'm just the famous face getting them in the door." Marcus laughed. The famous face with the checkbook, you mean? Partnership, Denzel corrected him. 50-50, just like when we used to mow lawns in the neighborhood. I bring the connections, you bring the expertise. These vets will listen to you in a way they never would to me. They walked together toward the conference room, pausing just before the doors. Nervous? Denzel asked. Terrified, Marcus admitted. But good terrified, you know? Denzel smiled. That's how you know it matters. As they entered, the room fell silent. Journalists, community leaders, and veterans stood respectfully. Marcus recognized some of the faces in the crowd. Men and women he'd met under bridges and in shelter lines, now clean and hopeful, given temporary jobs helping launch today's event. Denzel approached the podium first. His remarks were brief, focusing on the statistics of veteran homelessness and introducing the initiative. When he mentioned Marcus's name, describing him as co-founder and executive director, his voice carried unmistakable pride. Then it was Marcus's turn. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the microphone. Looking out at the expectant faces, he set aside his prepared notes. 6 months ago, I was invisible, he began, his voice gaining strength with each word. Just another face on the street that people hurried past. When you're homeless, the hardest part isn't the cold or the hunger. Though God knows those are hard enough, it's the way people stop seeing you as human. The room was completely silent. I served my country proudly, came home with medals, had a life, a job, a future. Then life happened, tragedy, trauma, bad choices. The slide down is faster than anyone ever tells you. Marcus paused, his gaze finding a young veteran in the third row who nodded in understanding. What saved me wasn't just shelter or food, though I needed those desperately. What saved me was being seen, really seen, by an old friend who didn't look away, who didn't just throw money at the problem and consider it solved. He glanced at Denzel, who was watching intently from a seat near the podium. This initiative isn't about charity. It's about dignity, about saying to every veteran who's struggling, you matter, your story isn't over, and you don't have to walk the road back alone. Marcus gestured to the group of formerly homeless veterans standing along the wall. Every person here has value, skills to offer, wisdom earned through hardship. We don't just need homes and jobs. We need purpose. That's what the Washington Collins Initiative provides. As Marcus continued outlining the program's details, the transitional housing already secured, the partnerships with employers, the peer support network, he noticed something happening in the audience. The journalists who had begun by taking dutiful notes were now fully engaged, some visibly moved. The community leaders were nodding with growing enthusiasm. And in the back row, a silver-haired woman dabbed at her eyes. Mrs. Patterson, their old math teacher from the Bronx, now in her 80s, whom Denzel had flown in as a surprise. In conclusion, Marcus said, his voice steady and clear, we often talk about homeless veterans as a problem to be solved. But we're not a problem. We're people who once stood up for this country and can stand up again with the right support at the right time. The applause was immediate and thunderous. As Marcus stepped away from the podium, he caught Denzel's eye. The actor was applauding with everyone else, but there was something more in his expression. A mix of pride, vindication, and unmistakable emotion. Reporters surged forward with questions, and for the next half hour, Marcus and Denzel fielded them as a team, seamlessly complementing each other's responses, just as they once had on the basketball court decades ago. When the formal press conference ended and people began networking over refreshments, Mrs. Patterson made her way to them, her eyes still glistening. "My boys," she said, taking both their hands in hers. "Look at you now." "Thank you for coming, Mrs. P," Marcus said, bending to kiss her cheek. "Wouldn't have missed it for the world," she replied. "Always knew you two were special, even back when you were driving me crazy in algebra." As she moved away to get some refreshments, Denzel turned to Marcus. "So," he said quietly, "was it worth it? All the work, the therapy, the spotlight?" Marcus looked around the room, at the veterans engaged in conversation with potential employers, at the housing coordinators exchanging contact information with social workers, at the genuine hope filling a space that had been just an empty office suite months ago. "Ask me in a year," he said with a smile, "when we've got success stories of our own to share." "Fair enough," Denzel agreed. Then, more seriously, "But what about for you personally?" Marcus considered the question. The road hadn't been easy, and there would be challenges ahead. Recovery wasn't a straight line, but a daily choice. Yet standing here now, feeling solid ground beneath his feet and purpose in his heart, the answer was clear. "For the first time in longer than I can remember," he said, "I can look in the mirror and recognize the man looking back." Denzel nodded, understanding completely. He raised his water glass in a small toast. "To being seen, to carrying each other," Marcus replied, completing the circle that had begun in a Bronx neighborhood so many years ago. Outside, the June sun continued to shine on Boston, on second chances, and on the enduring power of a friendship that had weathered decades, fame, hardship, and now redemption. As people filed out at the end of the event, carrying brochures and business cards, they took with them not just information about a new initiative, but the memory of two friends who demonstrated that sometimes the most valuable thing one person can offer another is not wealth or fame, but the simple, profound gift of recognition. The story of Denzel Washington and Marcus Collins wasn't just about a celebrity helping a homeless man. It was about two human beings reminding the world that we all have the capacity to fall, to rise, and most importantly, to help others do the same.